We've got a great guest for the show today, somebody that I've admired for a long time, ever since I first met him at GDC a few years ago. But he's been doing some incredible things for his company. It's called Eastside Games. Everyone, please welcome to the stage, Josh Nilson. Good to see you. What is he? He's got something in his. What are you bringing here? You bringing gifts? What is this? Oh, we were talking about beer, and he brought a beer. Look at this. Good to see you.
A couple pairs of socks for you there.
This is Trailer Park Boys beer. Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. Well, we're going to be drinking this. What is this?
Official lanyard for you, which is the same chain that Ricky wears in Trailer Park Boys.
Oh, that's awesome. That's so rad. And I got Trailer Park Boys socks. That's fantastic. Is it a pair for me and a pair for Blake? That's great.
Or two pairs, depending on how the beer goes. You
okay.
Never know. You might need a clean pair of socks in the morning.
Let's try not to get beer all over the gear. All right. Cheers, my friend.
Cheers. This is the Trailer Park Boys' own beer. Stole it from Ricky's stock.
That's awesome.
This is what we drink down the.
Do you think the
studio.
Trailer Park Boys are watching this? Do they have the internet in the trailer?
I don't know. If they do, it depends on how. Whatever Corey's set up, so it's not going to be good. Probably some 56K modem they got going there.
No, they stole it off of a neighbor.
Yeah, they totally stole it. Yeah.
Cheers, man. This
Cheers.
is awesome. It's good to see you.
Happy Friday.
Happy Friday. And hold on, I got a swig. Hold on one second. Congratulations. That's pretty good. It's pretty good beer.
It's good beer, yeah.
Do they make it in the trailer?
Yeah, they make it like in. You can
Actually,
watch the episode.
I don't want to know the
big
ingredients.
Yeah.
So you've been having a lot of good things happen. When we met you, I think you were just putting the deal together around Trailer Park Boys, Greasy Money, right? And now it's been out for about a year.
We're going on. It's been out since it's our second year.
Second year, okay.
And so we're going on our third. We're coming up on our second birthday.
Okay.
6 million installs so far. When we launched, we were not only the top game, but we're the top app in Canada.
Yeah.
And we're trying to keep up. We became a top 100 game in 100 countries.
Wow.
And we've now since pivoted the studio to only make narrative idle games. So Trailer Park Boys is a narrative idle game, and our whole thing that we want to do is we decided we want to make games for everyone. So that's kind of what we're doing at Eastside Games now.
Okay, so they're not just going to be about the Trailer Park Boys. If they're going to be games for everyone, you're also working on It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia,
yep,
or is that out now too?
It's not out, but we're still working away on that, and then we have another game. I think we're going to show a clip of that one, but we have another game we're working on as well. So we're kind of still doing staying true to our. For people that don't know, back in the day, I made a little game that has over 30 million installs called Pop Farm.
Yep.
Now I'm moving on to digital trailer parks and, making everyone proud in the industry.
How prescient were you guys with the creation of Pot Farm? Were you pushing the legalization movement that happened eventually in Canada? Did people were able to hold up the app and say, "See, it works in the game. Why don't we do this in our country?"
Maybe, I don't know. I think what we found with Pot Farm though is there's a whole bunch of people out there that want to play games.
Yes.
And back then we were in the Facebook days, and now everyone has these devices in their pocket that can play any sort of games at all times. So the one thing we found with Trailer Park Boys is I'll meet fans that say, I don't play games, but I play your app, and they'll show me, and then we'll look at how much they've played, and they've actually played 100 plus hours, but they don't identify themselves as gamers. And
right.
I think that is amazing that we're just kind of hitting this new wave of people that are going to enjoy games as entertainment, much like it's just like a new wave of people that are going to enjoy games, and that's fantastic for the industry.
Yeah, it's the labels that we have put on video games all the way along that have really detracted from the business growing, right? I mean, you came from the traditional console game development, right? Where did you get your start?
Started at Relic.
At Relic.
So I worked at Relic. I worked on Dawn of War. I worked on Company of Heroes.
Awesome.
If I knew RTSs inside and out, and did the whole AAA development, and then this little platform launch called Facebook, and I really thought it would be great to get in there early and make just simple games, because coming from playing RTSs all the time, like I just didn't have 2 hours to set up my game or commit like an hour to play a session, but I did have a lot of time throughout my day at Relic that I could just sneak away and play a game while I'm supposed to be working.
So
and
you saw that
those are the
dichotomy.
people-
You saw it, and you probably heard from people that. I mean, RTS is like so granular to begin with. It's like an audience within an audience within an audience in a way, right?
Yeah.
And you saw that it couldn't appeal to everybody, and then you saw that there were emerging devices, and you had like the data right in front of you, and you took the risk and started your own business. Was it working right from the get-go, or was it stressful when you started East Side Games?
No, it's pretty much been, so we've been around since 2011.
Awesome.
And it's pretty much been a series of disasters, but we managed to survive. But I think that's just game dev in a nutshell. What really helped
What was
us-
the first disaster? Was it Facebook? Was it just making games for Facebook?
The first disaster was just working on platforms that move fast.
Yes.
So mobile, Facebook, and now platforms right now. It's just these platforms move very quickly, and they have lots of customers that they have to work with. So your games can have extreme challenges. Might have to make sure that they work with all devices.
Right.
They could take down your game if you're not compliant for just technical issues.
Yes.
And it's not like working for submission for console or even AAA where it's very rigid and you will have months to do it. You might have, there's a new security flaw and you have to get this fixed in weeks, not months.
Oh, wow.
And so it's a series of learning. I'd say.
I'm curious about this because that, I guess, would put a huge emphasis on hiring the right programmers that can deal with this stuff on a fluid kind of living basis, right? What percentage, how does that correlate with what you remember from the Relic days? Do you have mostly programmers and then and people that are always looking at the networking and always looking at, because you have multiple devices on Android and you've got Apple always sort of refreshing their OS, so you've got to have programmers ready to go all the time.
I mean, the one thing that we talk about all the time with schools and with crowds is that mobile is completely different from what AAA console has taught you what they need. There's a whole bunch of jobs in it. Merges into interactive media, merges into marketing and people that know how to do data, and then people that know how to kind of do more product and project management. So it kind of goes back from a blend. I started in tech in working at startups. It's kind of a blend of startups / with game production, and then you also have you're able to be really, really close to your fans. And you have to listen to them and react very quickly.
Yeah.
So it's not like the days where you get all the information from your fans, you have some time, and then you make a patch and you release it. It's like you might have to put that fix out in hours or minutes versus you can't wait for all this time because you put something in that is affecting the game. So
Josh, is this fun? This sounds like hell to me. Is it fun? Is it still a fun thing to do to make games like that?
It's amazing. It's really, really good to be able to put something like, there's never been a better time to make games. The platforms we're working with right now are absolutely world-class and fantastic. To work with Google Play and Apple and Steam and Facebook, and to put stuff out right away and be able to have customers come and play it and give you feedback and say, I like it, I don't like it, and then be able to we have tools that we could change those, change everything on the fly is pretty amazing. For example, right now in Trailer Park Boys, we have these great events that we're able to kind of tie into the real world. So we have a big event right now in Trailer Park Boys that's the wrestling event, and we've had over 100 of these events so far. And so we're able to supplement the game with these events. Sometimes they kind of tie into stuff that's happening in the real world right now.
Yep.
And it's really good that you can, I see it as games now, mobile games, or how we make them, is just part of sort of this media circle that I see, where it's people will watch the show, they'll play the game, they might go see the performers live, and then they get excited about the brand again, and then they could come back and play the game, and so we're just part of that media, that canon in the universe, because we're consuming so much content that people that are making these IPs are just running out of content all the time because we're consuming it instantly.
Yes, and I mean, the Game of Thrones Conquest game is a massive success, and I think it's partially because of that. People want to stay in that universe for after the show is done, right? They're waiting and they're waiting and they're waiting. It's interesting you bring this up, and I used to work in games for a very small amount of time. I was working at Black Box on a NASCAR title, and when I was there, I enjoyed it, but it was slow. And I'd come from making weekly television. I'd come from shipping something on a regular basis. And when I listen to you, it feels a little bit like you guys are sort of at that crossroads of shipping a TV show as well as a game. It's like you're constantly shipping something. Whereas where you came from, it was a long haul, right? It took years before you guys could hit that send button and then, or the print the CD button.
Yeah.
And it must be a huge change.
Yeah, for sure. We also make a lot of content as well. So the biggest change that's happened in all games is you have to interact with your fans more than the game. So we've also had close to that, 56 or so shows. We do a few shows per week live on Twitch and on Facebook Live. Just another way to interact with our fans to say what content's coming up. Because now we're finding our fan base has never watched... like they've never used YouTube or Twitch or Facebook Live.
Right.
But now they watch that like that's their show. So I think that's also really...
Do you have it
really
embedded
cool.
in the game itself? Can people watch it, right? Or are there links within the game that they can just click on it and they can watch the content that you're making?
It's on our wish list.
Yeah.
If you're ever looking to be a product manager, come hit me up. I love these ideas. That's great. Yeah. Are you taking notes, Lucas?
Man. Yeah.
Taking notes? Yeah. Everyone back at the studio is like, "You're never going on that show." No.
That's cool, man. So you mentioned that you've shifted more into narrative. So before it was more simulation and sort of you're taking your RTS kind of background a little bit and building mobile apps and Facebook apps that kind of leaned into that. But now you're working with scripted shows, and I guess you're writing like episodes, or stories based on the stories that you're licensing.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, that's another position we have now that we didn't have much back in the first phase of mobile games. Is we have a huge narrative design, script writing team that has to deal with all that stuff, that has to produce all that content and go back and forth and make sure it falls into the lore of whoever we're working with. If that's working with Trailer Park Boys or Sunny or whatever, we have to just make sure that we're additive to that universe and all the jokes kind of make sense. So we're doing that.
Do they judge all that? Like, do they give you guys feedback?
Yeah.
Do they have to approve it all? What do they like to? I can only imagine the Trailer Park Boys giving you guys analysis and notes and things like the kinds of stuff you must hear.
Well, first of all, everyone knows Ricky learned to write by only reading instructions on the back of frozen food that he cooks. So he writes everything on a smoke package, and then he just gives us that feedback, and then we go ahead and put it through that way.
So you guys get mailed crushed cigarette packages.
Yeah, and if it's
with scrawl on it.
And if it's Julian, we just slip them, 2 or 3 $20 bills, all greasy style, and he's just like, "That's good. You can push it through." So depends who you're dealing with, I guess. Yeah.
Have you spent a lot of time interacting with the stars of Trailer Park Boys?
So the boys are, they always got scams going. They're just like that in real life. They have always got some sort of greasy thing happening. So we do meet them from like time to time. Yeah, they've got their whiskey as well and a bunch of other things that they do. But we meet them and go through kind of what we're going to build with them, and they're really involved. The one thing about Trailer Park Boys is they have the best fans in the world. We're only building games at Eastside Games that I'm a huge fan of. So everything that's coming up, I'm a hyper fan of. Once we do these 3 or 4 games, we'll make the last game that's I'm the biggest fan of, which is the Littlest Hobo game, and then I have no more ideas, and I'm out. I won't know what to do. Yeah, that's it.
Move into the island. That's it. Gonna get a pot farm going, real pot farm.
Yeah, I think so.
That's awesome. Okay, so I want to talk about how the Trailer Park Boys idea and the concept and the partnership came together.
Sure. So they reached out to us, and at the time
because of the pot farm?
Because of pot farm.
Okay.
And because of sort of the content, the style, the humor.
Cool.
We first passed on it because we just felt like we were such fans of it, and we've never worked with licensed IP before, so we passed on it and introduced them to some other studios. They came back and they said, "No, we want you guys," and I'm like, I think we're gonna mess this up, and we totally did. Like, we were 8 months late and way over budget, but when we did launch it, it shot up, and it was amazing. I think we're one of the first people in this genre, and we're definitely the leader in narrative idle. So we're doing something a little bit different. There's always been idle games. They've always been more battle. They haven't really been based on a story before. And what we found is people actually read and like that content, and we just thought for years people were skipping over the content.
Yeah.
So they played the game and they thought it was hilarious, and
it's kind of like an interactive comic book in a way, right? And,
totally.
And you have these little scenarios and things that you got to get $100 American, which just seems impossible to the guys at the beginning of the thing, right?
Yeah.
I thought that was hilarious.
Yeah.
So the success of Trailer Park Boys then opened the door for It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia, which you obviously are a fan of, or
Yep.
is that what happened?
Yeah.
Did you have the pull then to reach out to them and say, we want to make your game?
Correct.
Or did they?
Yeah.
So you just contacted the producers, or what'd you do?
No, it's through a series of shows. They probably saw me getting interviewed on your show at GDC, and they're like,
Okay.
"Wow, this guy's a celebrity. We should maybe work with him." And through those shows, I mean, that's what I'm just always telling people when they ask for like advice in getting into the game industry or to work in the game industry. It's just long tail, so it's about constantly meeting people,
Yeah.
talking to them, keeping them updated. And what we wanted to do is we wanted to continue to make narrative idle games with really some amazing counterculture IPs, and I think It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia is it's one of the biggest, if not the biggest in the world. One of the longest running live action comedy shows.
Amazing cast.
Amazing cast.
Yeah.
Like outrageous stories. One of our biggest challenges is trying to make that really funny and staying with the true vibe of the show, but also making sure that it fits into platform guidelines because it's so like out there and amazing. Doing that, and then our other games, we have 3 or 4 that we're going to be announcing as well this year that are also narrative idle. So we're going all in on narrative idle.
Okay, so I've heard narrative games before, and it's idle, like
Idle as well.
like you're just like idle, IDLE,
Yeah,
and that's the genre.
yeah.
And is that specific to mobile games, narrative idle, or can we play stuff like that on 3DS or other types of machines?
So it evolved from, they used to be called clicker games.
Okay.
So on definitely on consoles, and that you can play like Adventure Capitalist and Cookie Clicker and all those type of games. That's kind of like where it came from.
Okay.
But what we've done with our games is we've just made them a little bit more so they are easy to play, fun to get into right away, and anyone can play them. So there's actually not a lot of clicking in our games, so we changed the term to sort of idle games.
Okay, cool.
And it's a very fast-growing segment right now on the mobile store. It's kind of like a game that a lot of people will play while they're waiting for their other game or while they're waiting for the bus, because you can play all of it in a 1 or 2 minute segment, and you're not punished if you have to go away and come back.
And it's funny, and you guys are endeavoring to kind of build some cool little plot, little elements. Are you tying to episodes, or are you just going off on your own?
It's a little bit of both.
Okay.
But definitely we start all of the games by, our whole goal is to let you relive those favorite episodes. So we know time is such a crunch right now that even though you want to go back and watch your favorite episode, you don't really have 23 minutes to watch all of the 15 seasons of your favorite episode, but
Yeah.
you might have 3 minutes to play through an episode. So I guess that's one of the biggest challenges. We have to kind of take down a 23-minute episode that's beloved with all of these jokes and get our writers to make it feel fun in a very small fraction of that.
Awesome.
Get all the jokes.
When are we going to be able to play It's Always Funny in Philadelphia? Always Sunny in Philadelphia.
There in the games industry, we say very soon.
Very good, very good. But you have another game which
Right.
you're revealing today, I think, right? Or
Yeah.
This is the first time we're going to see anything about this? Want to set up the clip that you've got for us?
Sure. We're working with a fabulous studio out of Victoria called Kano Apps. And we are working with another one of my beloved IPs, which is based on the rocker culture and a couple of misfits called Fubar. And
Awesome.
the biggest challenge with this one is just to make sure Terry doesn't drink all my beer and mess up my studio. These guys are like this in real life, and I have to deal with this as well. So I don't know what I got myself into working with both Trailer Park Boys and Fubar, but
I think you've got a niche. And Pot Farm?
And Pot Farm.
You've got your thing right there.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Well, let's take a look at the Fubar.
No way, they announced the game. Oh, sweet. Now I can diddle myself on the phone. Hey, guys. Kano, Eastside Games. I just want to say thanks a lot for all your fucking hard work you're putting into this game, for all the time you put in, conversations, good work, and grinding it out every day. You know, I sat here dog fucking, so thank you all. We got a new game coming out called the Fubar game.
Oh, what are we showing them?
This is the social media place.
Oh, they're right on. Yeah, it's like, are they there or there? Whatever. We'll just like.
Fucking right.
Oh, that looks so great. And I hope our Fubar is watching this Fubar clip right here. We've got a guy that we call Fubar that's been a part of EP forever. That's amazing. Congratulations on that. But I want to talk to you a little bit about the BC video game and the Vancouver-based video game industry, which has taken some hits. We've seen some big studios kind of falter. It seems to be, I get the calls from all of the sort of traditional media. Come on in and tell us about all the bad news. You know, a studio has gone down. What does that mean for the Vancouver economy? And it's like, I'm always like, you know how many indie studios there are here? Do you know how many people make games that are not a part of Capcom Vancouver? Rest in peace. You know, like there's lots and lots of stories out there. How is it doing? How's the Vancouver industry doing?
The Vancouver industry is actually doing very, very well.
Cool.
I think we go back to the narrative of 7 years ago or 8 years ago when some bigger studios left, and we continue to talk about that story. But what we haven't talked about is when those studios left, that they've left behind some fantastic people that have grown and made a whole bunch of studios. So, for example, we have 10 homegrown successful studios here in Vancouver that have over 50 people, that have local owners, that are all profitable. So there's a whole bunch of them, like a Thinking Ape and Iugo, Hothead, Skybox.
Ian Verscher's company.
Yeah, Session.
Yep.
I always forget his company. He always tells me about that.
Yeah.
So I always forget someone when I say the 10, but there's like 10 of us. So that's really, really huge. And then there's all the VR companies that are hiring. And actually, if you look at all the open recs right now in the city, including the big studios like EA and Kabam, you'll see hundreds of jobs available right now that they're trying to recruit globally. And a little bit about Vancouver is we have 152 game studios and about 6,000 people that work in the industry. We're the second biggest cluster in Canada, and we're only growing. Just yesterday in the office, there were some people that were former Relic people that started their own studio. They're going to grow from Gasket Games. They're going to grow from 5 to 30, and then another studio that came from Bandai Namco closure. They're starting some new work, and they're starting a new studio. And so there's all of this chatter that's actually happening, and they're building these cool games and doing that I think kind of gets missed in the news because that's just the nature of the news.
Yeah,
but
they like the bad news gets the ratings, I think, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, sucks. Yeah, that's why I always try to say, look, let's talk about all the incredible work that is going on in here. And that sounds fantastic. That's awesome. And it must feel really good for you to be a part of that. Let's talk a little bit about the Eastside Games as a company. You started in 2010, 2011?
2011.
2011?
Yep.
And how many people did you launch the company with?
Started with 12 people, and
Cool.
now we're about 80 people with 2 studios. I have a small studio in Nanaimo that takes care of all of the Pot Farm legacy stuff. Still a lot of people playing that. Pot Farm, Bud Farm games right now, so there's still a lot of people playing that.
That's awesome. And I guess you kind of have to budget for that too, right? You don't know, when do you know when to turn it off? Like when do you know, like, you can't hire any more people? You can't pay people to keep working on something. Like, do you have that planned out and mapped out? Because these games can have a life of their own and keep going forever.
Yeah, I mean, that's another thing that's changed in games is, I think it's changed in AAA as well, is you don't always just look at launching a new game. Now we look at extending the games and thinking more in a television line about continuing the content. So you'll hear that term live ops a lot more. We're looking at running games for 4 or 5 years, having fans that have played for that long as well.
Cool. You mentioned Facebook and you mentioned Steam. Are you thinking of, we've got the Stadia service from Google coming pretty soon, and that there's going to be the Apple Arcade, and there's lots of different sort of new options that are coming to the table. Are you guys as a studio thinking maybe there's businesses to be built there, or business to be built that way, like I don't want to say a AAA budgeted Trailer Park Boys game, but I imagine fans of the franchise would love something like that. Would you guys ever consider that kind of model?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, the best thing about the games industry right now is there's so many new platforms. So you mentioned all those new platforms they mentioned are amazing, and then there's also Facebook Messenger games that are hitting millions of people that people are playing on a daily basis.
Those instant games?
Instant games.
Yeah, they're really cool.
And Snap just announced their new game platform.
Right.
So that's going to grow. So I think that just goes back to everyone's playing games all the time, and I think that's fantastic. Like, as much as what we like to say at Eastside Games, what we look for an ideal game is you wake up in the morning and you have your coffee, and instead of opening up your Facebook and Twitter and email and getting bad news, we want people to open up our game, play it for a little bit, feel good about it, and then start their day. And we're finding more and more people are kind of getting into this habit that instead of watching the morning news or reading the newspaper, they're playing a little game and then going about their day and kind of progressing throughout the day.
That's awesome.
And I think our games can definitely be, the games you play can be a supplement to games that you play as well at night.
That's awesome. And you could only imagine that if more and more people start doing that Instagram and Twitter will start doing, instant games and different ways to get into games, and gives you guys more platforms. And I think you're absolutely right. I think that we have done such a disservice to the medium by putting it into boxes and making all these different sort of rules for people to be able to access all of this stuff. And I'm glad that you found a way to kind of carve out your own destiny.
Thanks.
When you started in this business, did you ever think that you would be running your own studio and sort of mavericking your way through how to get your work out there like this?
No, I was like, I'm lucky if we survive 6 months, man. Like, I'm not making a game about a pot farm. Like, come on. And then, and then here I am being like, let's do Trailer Park Boys, let's do Fubar, let's do Sunny. So it's like, I think what we realized is there's a lot of just demand for content, whatever you make. So if you're making a game out there, you're thinking about making a game, just know that there's a lot of demand for content and whatever you need. There's a whole bunch of subcultures that are into that you're gonna find the fans in order to do that.
He's looking at you guys. He's looking at you students from VFS, the game design program. That's awesome. One of the things that's become clear to me in our conversation is that when I would talk to developers about creating for PC, it used to be a nightmare because there were sound card conflictions and graphic card conflictions. There were all these different versions of a PC that were going out there, but they were sort of one SKU. It was one demographic, but this preponderance of different game platforms now just means more people coming in and finding a way to play. Mm-hmm. So it's not as intimidating, even though you have to have programmers that can adapt and solve and find a way to port and work with all of these different things. You know that every one of those is an open door to a new audience.
Yeah, and it's an open floor on who can be successful, right? Like, There's never been a better time to make video games. Like right here in Vancouver, the little indie studio, I always pronounce around, but I think it's Rack 7 that did Splitter Critters. Yeah. They won Game of the Year for Apple. Game of the Year! And it's 2 or 3 people that work on that. And you don't need to have Supercell in town in order to do that. You should just push out games. And the one thing about Vancouver game...
and Celeste, we just saw them clean Celeste, up too. Yeah.
It's very supportive. We're trying to help each other out. We're trying to really have this... we always say our biggest competitor isn't ourselves. It's like we want to compete and we want to make Vancouver into Finland. We want to be like Finland, so that's our competition. We have to be as collaborative as Finland.
Why do we want to be like Finland?
Because Finland has all of
It's very cold in Finland.
I mean, I think that's why they have the best developers. They have Supercell and Rovio and Next Games, and they just released a list that said the mobile games that have made $1 billion, and out of the 10 that are on there, like I think 4 or 5 are from Finland.
Ah, okay. That's why we want to be like Finland.
Yeah.
We want their money.
We want their money, and we want their goalies for our hockey teams.
Okay. All right.
That's where they're beating us right now.
That's awesome. Josh, it's fantastic to have you here. Please come back again when Fubar is ready and when you have signed the deal for the Littlest Hobo video game.
Definitely.
We all want the Littlest Hobo video game. Is there anything that the audience can do? Is there a petition we need to sign? Do we need to get on the phone with the producers of the show?
I'm working on it.
You're working on it? Okay.
I'll let you all know when my campaign kicks off to get the Littlest Hobo IP, and we'll go from there.
Awesome, buddy.
Yeah.
Thank you very
Thanks, man.
much.